Osiris.
I'd like Sierra Hull to come out and sing a song with us.
When I was a young girl, I had me a cowboy. He wasn't much to look at, just a free rambling man.
What's up, everybody? Nolan here with you on the Corner of Gray Street podcast, and we have a special guest for you tonight. 6-time Grammy nominee, 7-time International Bluegrass Association Mandolinist of the Year, and first-time guest on the Corner of Gray Street podcast, bluegrass singer-songwriter Sierra Hull. Sierra, thanks for joining us.
Howdy, howdy. How you guys doing?
Great. How about you?
I'm good. Yeah, doing good. Glad to be with you.
Unbelievable. Yeah, we're super excited. For all of our listeners, I'm sure you probably remember, and if you don't, then here's your reminder that Sierra actually opened for Dave and Tim last year down in Mexico, just like former podcast guest Karina Reichman. But Sierra actually got to guest with them on a few tunes, and she's opening for them this year at the Gorge. Well, DMB, not Dave and Tim. I guess Tim's involved, but yeah, night 3 of the Gorge, September 6th, which will get into down the line in this interview so that everyone can stay tuned for that. But off the top, Sierra, what is going on with you? You had a recent album about a year ago, but 2026 seems to be shaping up to be a huge year for you. So what are you up to right now?
Yeah, well, you're right. I looking at the calendar and I went, oh yeah, the record literally just came out a year ago, just a few days ago. Guess I missed the anniversary. Too busy doing stuff. But no, we had such a busy year last year and lots of fun stuff. Of course, you mentioned the Dave and Tim Fest down in Mexico. That was how we kicked off the year, actually, our first show of 2025, and we just kind of went full steam ahead from that. Just released the record a few months later, and then just I feel like we were here, there, and everywhere 2 or 3 times. So, but no, this coming year is shaping up to be a really exciting one. As I kind of was just looking over the calendar just a couple days ago, I was like, man, we got lots of exciting stuff coming up, and as we're kind of sort of wrapping up the a Tiptoe Highwire album cycle, it's exciting to have another project that's going to be coming out probably in about a month, something like that. There's
Ooh.
I grew up playing a lot of instrumental music, so all my I've never released like an instrumental album, but all of my records have had like a tune or two on there, with instrumental music being a big part of, what I do. And the musicians I have with me are such incredible instrumentalists that I get to play with on tour. So we love instrumental music. And a few years ago, I was asked by the Freshgrass Festival up in Massachusetts, and they've done this for several years now, where they'll commission a couple of the artists that are performing on the festival to actually write a piece of music for the event. They called it a
Yeah.
bluegrass concerto, but that can mean a lot of different things. So essentially, the boys and I wrote like a 3 movement piece, so about 15 minutes, 3 different instrumentals that go together. So the movements, they're finally coming out. So we've kind of been having those in our back pocket for a while, and just trying to get the music from a Tiptoe Highwire out and let that kind of do its thing. And it's exciting to kind of finally have that coming soon, as something that we can share, because it's my band was a huge part of my latest album, but this feels like a really special thing that they're like so heavily featured on with their instrumental voices. So it's a special one for sure.
Oh, that's
That's awesome.
awesome. Well, we love the instrumental tunes on A Tiptoe Highwire. The E tune with Bela
Yeah.
was big time. And I mean, it's funny that we had Bela back on our podcast and during
5 years
quarantine
ago? Yeah.
shutdown
6 years
when
ago?
he had a big old bushy beard and we all
Yeah.
had long hair and hadn't seen anyone in forever. But it's kind of crazy the amount of collaborations like in your circle and then uh, our circle between Bela, Cory Wong, Karina Reichman. Who else am I?
Rick from Goose.
And Rick. Yes, Rick. So yeah, it's great to have you on. But we want to ask a little bit about Tiptoe High Wire. Like we said, it was released almost exactly a year ago. Nominated for 4 Grammys on its own. It was an independent release, not with a label. So how did that kind of come about? And did you enjoy that process?
Yes, actually. I mean, it's a little bit scary anytime you're releasing music, to be honest, whether it's with a label or not. There's still like this thing that you've poured your whole heart into. And, at some point you just you work hard on the music and you try to do something that feels meaningful to you and you put it out in the world and you hope that people like it. But to have it be received the way it has been. And of course the Grammy nominations were like a complete shock. I mean, you hope for like maybe one, to get four kind of, I think, really blew all of our minds pretty good. But no, it just I think the journey to getting to finally releasing something independently is interesting for me because I started so young. I mean, I started playing mandolin when I was 8 years old and grew up heavily in the bluegrass world. And so, I mean, I dreamed of being on Rounder Records. That was like a label that had released so many of my heroes projects, from Allison Krauss to Tony Rice to, just, I mean, a whole slew of people that I loved and adored, especially back throughout the 80s and 90s and early 2000s and stuff. When I was really sort of coming along in the early 2000s, it was like, wow, if I was going to be on any label, what label would I want to be on? So, I was just this kid kind of dreaming of that. And so to have the opportunity to release my first few records on that label was very meaningful to me. But then, I sort of closed that chapter after we had done that. I fulfilled my end of the contract, they fulfilled theirs, and it sort of was like I looked up and was like, "Wow, I've been doing this a while, and I haven't really had the opportunity to just like put out music that I fully own, that's fully mine, where I'm fully in the driver's seat." And it felt like the industry is in such a different place than it was when I was a, 13-year-old kid signing to Rounder Records. So I just, between that and my managers have worked with a lot of indie artists who have put out projects themselves. So, it still takes a village. Don't get me wrong. We still had a lot of great people who were working on this project. It wasn't all me by any means. If it had been fully my responsibility, I probably wouldn't have done it because I just don't have the experience. You know what I mean?
Right
But
back.
it's a lot of hard work, and what it allowed me to do is to really learn a lot through the process. And I enjoy all aspects of being a musician, not just the artistic side, but the business side. I guess you could say I have a foot in every piece of what I do. So I think for me, being able to like actually be on that side of it and like learn throughout the process of, putting out the music and, what that actually looks like when we're kind of building a team from the ground up. And it also meant that like the people that we chose to hire to work on this project with us were all people we knew were really stoked about it and invested in it. So I feel like that was all really reflected throughout the past year of just having people really work hard on behalf of this record just because they were passionate about it. And so, yeah, something like kind of capping off the year with those nominations felt like such a group win just to get the nominations alone.
Oh, y'all,
Yeah.
y'all big time deserved it.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and
Yeah, thank
congratulations.
you.
That's so cool. And I saw a lot of things, and I feel like these are true. You're described as being more humble to the music, and it said like, so what comes out is a little more musical. That was a quote I saw about you. I thought that was really cool.
Oh,
I think it
that's
plays
nice.
into, yeah, it was really that was like one of my favorite quotes I've seen about a musician, right? Um, and it really does play into your like genre bending style beyond bluegrass. So like this album, I saw some other quotes: roots inflected pop and funky, and you just don't get that with mandolinists or like bluegrass. But two of the top songs from this record, Boom and Spitfire, it seemed really like those especially played into those descriptions. Tell us a little bit about how it felt to come up with those songs, obviously, as you're evolving as a musician, and ever since they've come out, like the reaction, or just like how it's felt playing on stage with tunes like that aren't I mean, they're really just not bluegrass like at all, but they're amazing.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I've always loved a lot of different styles of music, despite growing up being so rooted in the tradition of the music and, going to the jam sessions on Friday and Saturday nights and, sitting in a circle with the old timers playing, the old songs. It's like I still like that's a very happy place for me to be, it's like to have cut my teeth on that, that really feels like the deepest part of my musical self is that at the core. But I also am just young enough that I grew up with heroes like Bela Fleck or Allison Krauss or Chris Thile or people that have never, though, despite also growing up bluegrass kids and starting young and all that, never were boxed in by genre, so to speak. You look at all the crazy collaborations someone like Bela's done. I mean, it's like I think he holds the most Grammys for like different genres, you know what I mean?
Oh,
Like more
sure.
than any other
Yeah.
artist where it's like he'll dabble here and over there. And you look at Allison, though she at the core of her own records and music has remained pretty, tried and true to a certain kind of path with her band Union Station, but it's like she's collaborated with everybody in every genre. She might wind up on a Foreigner record or she might be doing something with Yo-Yo Ma. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
it's kind of all over the place. So I've always really admired that, in my heroes. So I think it sort of cultivated in my mind this safe space to just kind of be whatever is authentically you as a musician. And so I think as a listener, I've always been a curious listener. I love all kinds of different styles of music. And just kind of taking those bluegrass roots. I play the mandolin, so there's always going to be a little bit of that bluegrass sound for sure. And most of the musicians I'm playing with also have ties to that world, but we all love a lot of different things. So I think as a songwriter, it just allows me to feel like I can kind of sit down and write whatever comes out, and it may be inspired by something completely outside of the bluegrass box that I have listened to. And, I have songwriters that I greatly admire that are, in all kinds of different genres of things. So I don't know, a song like Boom kind of started as a guitar riff first. The Boom and Spitfire, I think, are great examples from this record for multiple reasons because they do feel like integral parts of the record. And that Boom was the first thing that we recorded for this record. And in my mind, once we recorded that song, I was kind of just like, I felt like there was a tone set for what the record could be, sort of,
Yeah.
which is partly why I wanted it to be the first single from the record. And it's the first song on the record, as something that, melodically, I wouldn't say is hard to digest. It's much like a lot of the bluegrass songs might be, only two or three chords sometimes, but it's definitely more groove based, a more groove based kind of song. That not that the lyrics aren't important on that one, but I think like, it started as a groove oriented kind of melody first. Something on the flip side, like Spitfire was 100% about the lyrics first, and became that song's a song that I was inspired to write about my granny and her life and this crazy life that she had kind of gone through and the strength that I still kind of look to from her, even though she passed away a couple years ago, but I can kind of still like think about her when I'm going through a hard time or I need to be able to like, think about that kind of grit and energy that somebody like her, this kind of tough country woman that she had, despite all the hardships, she still had this joy she carried with her. So I loved the idea. There's a lyric in the song Spitfire that says, Queen of a Tiptoe High Wire, which to me, in my mind, just, when I wrote that about her, I just thought about how, she was this bold personality who wasn't afraid to like do whatever she needed to do or just be fully her, And so when I was thinking about this record, it was sort of the idea of like, trying to lean into the tradition but not be bound by it, to step out into some new territory and on one hand kind of be balancing that tradition of the music I grew up loving but also be trying to bring something new with me at the same time. And so yeah, I love the idea of like, making that the title of the record to kind of honor her but also for all the kind of things that it sort of symbolized, for me, especially with putting this music out by myself for the first time, or with my team. But you know what I mean? Independently, it's sort of a scary place to be in some ways, but also like exciting.
Oh, for sure. We're gonna have to get some of these played on DMB radio to get fans geared up for the Gorge. They're gonna
Yes.
love it. Yes. Um,
Awesome. Yeah.
yeah, no, but going off of that, what do you think it's easier, or do you enjoy one over the other, but writing a song based on a riff or lyrics?
You know, they both come to me at different times, and I wouldn't say
Mm,
that I necessarily do one more than the other, which is
yeah.
interesting. I know some people say, "Oh, I always start with the melody," or "I always start with the lyric." I find it's kind of it can really change on a given day for me. I'm always kind of collecting lyric ideas like on my phone and my notes, so I've always got just like a ton of stuff in the works, even if it's kind of more like rhythmic poetry. Like I would say, like sometimes I write lyrics and don't have any kind of like rhythm to it, but most of the time it's like I'm sort of thinking in song form, I'm sort of thinking in flow, even if I don't have a particular riff or a particular melody going. But then sometimes I'll have something like I said, boom, kind of started as that opening. I wrote that on guitar, like the opening riff that you hear when the record comes
Mhm.
on. It's like that was kind of built on this idea that I was like, oh, it'd be fun to sing something over this. So it just depends. There's another song on the record called "Let's Go" that completely started as a well, I say completely started. It started as a mandolin riff that I kind of wanted to be able to like have this particular thing on the mandolin, but then I had some lyrics that kind of existed over here already, just a little start of, it, and I was like, hey, I think this kind of vibe will actually work with this. So sometimes you just get lucky and two separate ideas kind of married together. But yeah, it just kind of depends on where the inspiration is for me on a given day, to be honest.
I
Awesome.
love that. Yeah, I love that. That's just like that's how music's supposed to be. That's so cool. You've laid such a cool groundwork so far just of where you are currently, but where, tell everybody where you really came from and when you found out, like, or when you felt in your heart that this was something that you wanted to do. Like, where did all of this start?
Man, it sounds so crazy to say, but I have known that I wanted to do this since I was 8 years old, and I first started playing the mandolin. I fell in love with it. I fell in love with, one of the things that I've realized, and I've sort of said in a lot of interviews, but it's true. Like over the last couple years, like I fell in love with the music, but I fell in love with the community too. The community is such just a beautiful part of, and I see it like, that was one of the big things that struck me about being at the Dave and Tim Festival. I was like, man, these fans are like some of the most awesome people. They're just like, it was almost like I hadn't seen anything quite like that before. And it kind of reminded me of the bluegrass community in this way that people are just so stoked to be there over the shared love of the thing. Like everybody
Mhm.
in that space loves the same thing, and is just so um you know, like jacked up about like the experience of it all. And so for me as a young kid, that was getting to go to these festivals and sit in the jam sessions. And you go to a bluegrass festival, 90% of the people in the audience also play. They also play the music. And so it's kind of this shared experience where you're not only like playing to just people who appreciate music, but you're also playing to people who are like themselves musicians, and that there's like a deeper part of it in their world of where they're also trying to, you know, learn the language and learn to be able to play a lot of the songs in the catalog that I grew up loving and playing. So I just fell in love with that too, and maybe that's what really made me stay and decide, hey, this is really what I want to do, with the rest of my life. But I think we would get it like a new CD every week, and it would be discovering some new artists we'd never heard of before, and there's nothing like, I mean, I'll never forget my dad bringing home like Tony Rice's Church Street Blues, or what it was like to get my first Allison Krauss album or a Nickel Creek album, and just be, you know, um, so blown away by what I was hearing and dreaming about, getting to make my own album someday and touring and being in a band and writing songs. I just wanted to be like them. They were my superheroes.
Yeah, you talk about the kind of the vibes of community down at Dave and Tim. You'll see that times 10,000 at the
Yeah.
Gorge. It's
Yeah, totally. Well, so
it is
fun
such a cool
fun
place.
story. um so full transparency, like I grew up such a bluegrass kid. Like I had other albums, but I mean I was immersed in the bluegrass world, almost living under a rock musically in some ways. And so I remember when I was maybe in high school, I had a Dave Live at the Gorge CD. That was my one Dave Matthews Band CD that I
Yes.
Yeah.
had, that I like got at Walmart, because Dave Matthews Band's supposed to be cool and good, and I remember listening to it, really digging it. But I had never seen Dave live before, Dave or Tim, or believe it or not, I've still never seen the Dave Matthews Band live. So I'm so incredibly excited to get
Oh
to
boy.
go to the show at the Gorge. But despite that, I've gotten to work with Jeff Coffin a lot
Mhm.
through just knowing him through Bela and different things. Well, I say a lot, like we've gotten hang a good bit, and
Hmm.
I was on the Flecktones Christmas tour this past year, and we got to play a bunch together, which was so fun. And I know so much about Dave through Bela's association and all that stuff. So, but I went into it, to the festival being excited to be there. But I swear I was like, I wouldn't have called myself a super fan or anything, because I just,
Hmm.
not that I didn't know that it was great, but you know what I mean? There's so much great music in the world, and I just hadn't, got to have the experience yet, And so we're down there and I'm watching the show and I'm like, well, first off, he comes up during our sound check, Dave does, and just couldn't have been nicer, which I so appreciate in my fellow human, that kind of kindness. And no ego, just as sweet and welcoming as possible, which immediately puts everybody at ease, and is stoked to be there and all that stuff. And so I watched the show and I'm watching just how happy everybody is. And I swear I left that whole weekend, and after getting to play with those guys and stuff, it was just so much fun. And the way the fans treated us down there, the next day we played our pull set, and I went back and I literally, I'm not joking, I told my managers and my booking agents, I said, I don't know that I've ever, and I've been touring a long time now. I mean, I'm 34, but I started doing this so young. I'm a good 20 plus years into doing all this. I was
Wow.
like, I don't think I've ever left an event and had that many people that came up to me and said, "Hey, we really enjoyed your set. I just bought tickets to see you guys in this city or that city." Like, so many of those fans have since come out to see me at my shows. And I just think that that speaks so uh largely of just like the passion and love of those particular music fans, that it's like somebody that Dave gives an opportunity to, like he did to get
Hmm.
us on stage or have us there at the festival, that those fans would then kind of love back on us because Dave gave us that opportunity. You know what I mean? And so
Hmm.
I've played and opened for a lot of people over the years, and I just walked away from that being like, man, like that was an incredible experience. And I really hope that I get to be among these fans and these people again, because we felt the love, and hopefully, can give it back.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
I
We've
love
heard
that.
that a couple times too, just from other individuals who have had that opportunity, and they kind of have the same takeaway that they're the
That's what I was
Hmm.
gonna say. I don't
kindest
even think I'm
crew,
unique.
kindest.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
in
I
saying
think
it.
he goes out of his way because he knows, like, he was there at one point, but he just goes out of his way to make sure, like, hey, you're welcomed here. And then the fans just really latch on to it, especially if you're really good, especially if you sit in with them and you have a memorable performance or two, which you
Hmm.
did. That just
Yeah.
like it just sticks with people, and they're like, oh, Dave likes them, I like them. I mean, we're kind
What
of
I
crazy
really
like that.
loved too about getting to hear like Dave and Tim in that situation is everything's so stripped down that it's
Mhm.
like you can't hide behind anything as a
Nope.
performer when you're in that situation. And like the songs are so cool, the harmonies, the rhythms, it's like there's so much going on, that like even in a big band situation, if you're at like a big festival and it's loud, like it's easy to kind of get caught up in the people talking and kind of hanging, and not, but it's like in this stripped down raw singer songwriter type presentation, it's just like everyone was like
Hmm.
and just so keyed in. And yeah, I went, dang, I was like, maybe I wasn't like some super fan when I came here, and I just hadn't really, like, I didn't know all the songs and stuff like that, but I was like, I might be one now. was like, I think I might
Oh,
be a super fan now.
It sucks you in.
yes.
Oh, and
Oh,
not to ramble on and on, but I'll also
well,
say
keep going.
I was down in Mexico this year for the Widespread Panic Festival just in Mex or in January. And it's the
Mhm.
same weekend as Dave and Tim. And it was right in the same weekend where a crazy ice storm hit Nashville and
Yes.
large, well, you guys too,
Oh,
I'm sure. Some
yeah,
of,
yeah.
but that storm came through and our flight canceled while we were on stage playing at the festival. And my booking agent Josh was at Dave and Tim because he also works with Trampled by Turtles
Oh,
on the
Yes.
wow.
night before. Then he came to the other resort like an hour down the road to the Widespread Panic Festival. And he was there when my flight canceled. And so he was like, hey, the guys at the festival, at Dave and Tim's festival, they know that your flight canceled. And they're like, we'll put you up at the resort if you want to come hang out. So I went, my flight was canceled. We managed to get some of the guys where they needed to go, but I had to go to LA for the Grammy stuff like right after. And we were like, oh my gosh, like I might get back to Nashville and get stuck. And so they convinced me you should just stay in Mexico and fly straight to LA instead of going home. So I actually got to go to the Dave and Tim Festival on the last night that evening.
Oh,
I rode back with my booking agent from the Widespread Panic Festival, which had just ended, and got to see their show again. And it was
oh,
Oh my
awesome.
wow.
God.
So they got me really pumped for the Gorge.
I bet that worked out pretty well.
Yeah, so now I've technically been as a performer to Dave and Tim, and then, got to be, just there to catch the last set on the last night. And a lot of the folks that were at the festival were also stranded for like an extra day or two because they also
Mhm.
couldn't fly home. So I wound up at the resort for an extra day after the event. And people were just like hanging out and they're walking around with their t-shirts on, so there's still a lot of people from the festival hanging out. You could kind of spot them. And they had this jam where it was like two or three guys playing guitar, singing Dave songs, and like the fans were just living it up, singing the songs. And I was like, it's basically like reminded me of like a bluegrass jam, but all Dave Matthews songs. And I was like, this is so pure and so beautiful and so awesome. So that's my joyful rant about how much I love that community now that I've seen it twice. I can't wait for the Gorge.
Oh, that's great. We have a friend of the podcast, very good friend, also from Nashville, was in the same boat, got stuck in Mexico
Sure,
for
Alex.
another day. Yeah.
A couple
Um,
days, I think, for him,
I
actually.
think so, yeah.
I did feel a
If my
little
memory
guilty, I'm
serves me.
not gonna lie. I went straight from there to Los Angeles and dodged all of the crazy weather. Meanwhile, people back home, some of them, like my bass player, didn't have power for like 8 or 9 days. Pretty crazy.
Oh my
But
Oh,
gosh.
yeah,
Oh,
and it was cold. So I mean, they were staying with
yeah.
friends and at hotels and just all kinds of stuff. So I got lucky, but I was feeling extra blessed to be to be hanging out beachside with the Dave and Tim, folks.
oh,
Yeah.
I
You have
I love that.
any thoughts or, favorite moments from the Dave and Tim night 3?
Oh man. He played a new song that I thought was really great, the "Making It Great Again." I thought that was
Oh,
Mhm.
pretty powerful. I
Yeah,
yes.
I
I thought so
appreciate,
too.
I can appreciate like, the conviction of writing a song like that. And
Uh-huh.
who knows if he'll play it again or has, but I felt like it was cool to get to hear a new song premiered,
Yeah.
in a setting like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I'm wondering, he's gonna be on, Colbert
I
tonight,
saw
Tuesday
that.
night.
Oh, is it tonight?
So,
Okay, well, there you go.
yeah, I
I'll have to
wonder,
tune in.
I wonder if he's gonna play a new song. Maybe that one. Maybe he's worked on that one some.
Yeah, who knows?
We'll have to see. Yeah, it's in like 2 hours, I guess, from right now. You
Wow.
also got to see, another special guest who actually was, on our pod last September. So Jake Simpson,
What a
Yeah.
on
segue this is gonna
violin.
be.
Yeah, which I mean, this is so funny that you said that you went because our next note is literally about Jake because he did something similar to you. He wrote like as a kid wrote a letter to his hero, right? He wrote it to Dave. He wrote his letter to Dave Matthews. You
Wow.
wrote yours to your hero, and that was going to kind of lead into the next story. But it's so funny that you were there, and Jake was the
Well,
freaking
I've
guest
known
that night.
Jake for a long time too. Like the
He's
band
the
that he
best.
used to be in, the Little Smokies. I
Hmm.
Yeah.
know we have mutual friends in Colorado, so I mean I've known him for, you know, 10 to 15 years probably now, something
Sure.
like that.
Wow.
Maybe not quite 15, but yeah, a good long while, at least 10. So yeah, that was cool getting to see him up there and seeing the fans love on him like that.
It was unbelievable. But just like his full circle moment, obviously now becoming he's deeply entrenched in the DMB lore right now, as everyone is basically like, we want him to join the band. And you, when you wrote yours, it was to Allison Krauss, right? So your hero. Tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about maybe not necessarily that, but what happened pretty quickly after all of that and building up to I mean, you hadn't even hit 10 years old, I believe.
Well, before we started taping, we were talking about, I guess, Nolan, you being in North Carolina there and you having friends that go to Merle Fest. So I got to go to
Hmm.
Merle Fest when I was 10 years old. My mom and dad took me to that festival. It was my first big festival. And it was because we saw an ad in Bluegrass Unlimited for Merle Fest. And there were all these heroes playing, but especially because she was playing. And I didn't grow up like, my family didn't have like a ton of money when we were growing up. We didn't, mom and dad worked all the time. We didn't take big extravagant vacations or travel that much, you know. Um, Also, like I grew up in a town of like 700 people where like a music festival in that area might be like 200 people and you can just walk up to somebody and say hello after they've played on stage. So I
Awesome.
couldn't, the idea of going to a festival like this, I had no real concept for how big it could be or what it would really be like. You know, I think maybe I was just like a little kid imagining it would be a small event, but yeah, mom and dad took me to this festival, and I got to see Allison play on stage, but I got to meet Chris Thile on one of the side stages, you know, one of my mandolin heroes, and he took me backstage to meet her. And otherwise, it just all kind of worked out. Like I never could have imagined even getting backstage or seeing her, meeting her. I remember my mom even saying, honey, this is a big festival because I just knew I was going to get to. I mean, I'd just been, so excited about going to this festival and I'm going to get to meet Allison and I'm going to get her autograph and get a photo. And and we get there and I think mom and dad even realize, oh wow, this is a pretty big festival. And so I remember clearly mom saying to me like, hey, don't get your hopes up too much now, honey, because this is a big festival. At least you'll get to see her live. And if you don't get to meet her this time, you'll get to meet her sometime. And I said, oh, mom, please just pray I get to meet her. I just wanted to so bad. And so, lo and behold, I met Chris Thile. He took time to jam with me for like an hour. And then he took me backstage to meet Allison. And I was, I mean, happy as could be just to have the chance to get a photo. She didn't hear me play. I didn't get to play with her or anything. And then fast forward maybe like 6 months later, I was at the International Bluegrass Music Association's kind of big weekend that they have, and there's the Kids on Bluegrass program that I was invited to be a part of, and I was there kind of backstage jamming with a bunch of kids getting ready for this performance we were going to do, and in walks Ron Block from Allison Krauss's band. And I mean, I'm telling you, those guys were, they were my biggest heroes. Even the people in her band, I just couldn't believe, in walked Ron Block. And so I got to meet him, hang out, we jammed. I mean, again, just having my heroes take the time, for me as a youngster to give me that kind of time was so generous. And I still to this day I'm not 100% sure what happened. I think he must have went and said, Allison, I met this little girl. She's our biggest fan. She's obsessed. I was trying to learn all the mandolin parts from the albums, too. A guy named Adam Steffi played on those records and is one of my biggest heroes on the instrument. And so, I mean, I was trying to learn all the kickoffs and the breaks and everything and the songs. And next thing I know, she called my house and invited me to come play the Grand Ole Opry with her, which was a dream. I mean, I had literally drawn pictures of myself on stage at the Grand Ole Opry with
Wow.
Allison when I was about 9, so, just I don't know, it's a really wild full circle when that stuff happens, and that's really cool about Jake. I didn't realize that he'd been a Dave fan since childhood like that. That's really special.
It's
Yeah.
crazy, but you're like the bluegrass Derek Trucks up there, 9, 10 years old, just ripping and shredding already. It's unbelievable. It's like one of my favorite bits. He's like 12 or
Oh
something and
yeah.
just absolutely destroying. Ridiculous.
That's funny. uh, I've got a lot of full circle moments here in this episode, but I just pulled out the Merle Fest lineup for 2026. Allison Krauss back.
I
Yes.
Uh,
know, I saw that.
so cool. Old Crow,
I need to go just to go sit out in the crowd, you know?
you should, yeah. Molly Tuttle, Joy Oladican, who just played with Dave and Tim.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Maggie
she's great.
Rose, who we had on the podcast as well.
Maggie.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
love
looks like a
Maggie.
good time.
Heck
I think
yeah.
that's an open weekend for me. I might have to
You might
go.
have to go, Nolan.
Wow.
I might have to.
This is big
Yep.
time.
Oh man. So all right, you like achieve a dream or goal of playing at the Opry and you're playing with your hero. Wh- In your mind, like where do you go from there? Like what's the next step? Because that had to have been, I mean, you were so young, but that had to have been such a big like check mark for you. Like how do you kind of keep the momentum going like that at such a young age?
Yeah, I think at that age, your hopes and dreams are just so pure too. You know what I mean? They're truly just based on at least for me, it's like I remember that just based on sheer love and appreciation of these people to get the
Hmm.
chance to like, anytime meet my heroes like that. It's like and you still never lose that even as you get older, and you kind of keep doing the thing. It's like even though I got to like check that box pretty early, I still, can look at, people like Allison or Chris or any of these people that I kind of go back now a lot many years with as now friends and stuff, as they're still my heroes, they always will be. They become friends and people that you get to hang out with and stuff, like normal people, but at the same time, you still never lose that kind of childlike wonder. I don't think that I have, I still appreciate those people in that same way. But yeah, I think like getting to like see my heroes up close like that and befriend a lot of them, you learn so much from those people and getting to be in, you know, um, high level musical situations, so to speak, getting to be in the presence of people like that from a young age, and you're young enough to kind of be a sponge, so you could kind of soak up so much, when you love it like that and have those
Mm,
kind of opportunities. So I think for me, it was just about trying to learn. I mean, it still is, but especially then, it's like, what can I learn from these people, and how can I sort of use that to put one foot in front of the other to kind of build my own musical path, and kind
mm.
of use what they've that groundwork that they've laid as an inspiration to try to, cultivate something of my own, both creatively and business wise and all those things.
Oh
Well, yeah,
yeah.
that's an impressive mindset for how young you were too. So from there, you go to Berkeley College of Music, um, where another I keep saying this, but friend of the pod, Rick Materatonda, also went. Another full circle moment. Uh, how did that experience kind of shape your musical life?
Yeah, well, growing up such a bluegrass kid, all I really wanted to do was, graduate high school and go tour and play. I already had the record deal with Rounder. I'd already been kind of doing a lot of, you know, traveling when I could, when my parents could go. And of course, my parents still like worked full time and, they weren't letting me run off all over the place by myself. So I kind of couldn't wait to a point where I was like old enough to just go do the thing I'd essentially been dreaming of doing since I was 8. And to be honest, like, the people in my family, like my brother, my cousins, we're the first generation college educated folks in the family. A lot of my family roots, like my Spitfire granny, it's like some of the smartest people I know, but they grew up poor. They grew up in, rural Appalachia and
Mm,
didn't have a whole lot. Don't, they don't come from like a lot of opportunity for that kind of thing. So like somebody like my granny, I think maybe went to the 8th grade, she and my great aunt, and then, went to work in the bean fields and kind of just
Mhm.
start their life, and people start getting married and having babies and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So even though I think my parents always really instilled like, they wanted us to have it easier than what they had. So the idea of like doing well in school, neither of my parents went to college. My dad didn't finish high school even. It's like, but really hardworking people. And so this work ethic and seeing, always too like living within their means and things like that, not trying to, have the mansion on the hill that they can't pay for, but really proud of what they've built, but like looking after um their kids in a kid first kind of way. It's like they did everything they could to try to, and like make sure that if I had this dream of playing music, that I would be able to have every opportunity to see that through so that I could be happy. It wasn't like you've
Mhm.
got to go be a doctor, you've got to go, just because it's like in a way that just wasn't the life that they even really knew how to set us up for, if that makes sense in a weird way. They just wanted us to find something we could truly be happy. Because, I feel like my parents, you know, not that they can't find their happiness somewhat in the work they do, but they don't get to do the thing they love for a living. They never have. And so
Mhm.
I guess I've always kind of went, man, what a blessing to be able to do that. So anyway, circling back around to this idea of like, if you're going to go to college, I knew we would have to pay for it. I knew I would have to pay for it. My brother would have to pay for it. He did. He put himself through college. And so it just, to me, I had all this music opportunity stuff happening. It was all I dreamed of doing. I had the full support of my family. So I just couldn't wait to go play. So when this idea of a music scholarship kind of landed in my world of like, hey, you know, there's this school. I didn't even know what Berkeley was. That sounds so crazy now, but like back then, especially, they were primarily more of a jazz school back
Yeah.
in the
Mm.
day. Now they have kind of everything. And when I went, it was the beginning of the American Roots program, which, was really new for musicians like myself to be at Berkeley and kind of studying, traditional music and being able to have sort of a home for that. So it was actually Allison. I got a full scholarship, and I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I mean, I was like, that's nice, but I'd have to move to Boston. I mean, I'm from Tennessee. I kind of dreamed of being in Nashville where all my heroes were, and I wanted to be able to hit the road. And I was lucky because I came from such a I went to the only public school in my county, and I still only graduated with 44 people. It's rural.
Oh,
And
wow.
so there's like 5,000 people in the county. So we got one school. Everybody knows everybody. I went to
Mhm.
like there was people I graduated with that I went to kindergarten with, and I've known them their whole life. And so like I had the built-in support of people in my little community. When I went to play with Allison on the Grand Ole Opry and it was on TV, well, they all saw it and were cheering me on. It's like a sweet community of teachers and local like love that I knew I had, but the idea of going to Boston to college, I was like, I ain't gonna have that there. Like, there's no
No.
way. You know what I mean? So I don't know how I could
Mhm.
possibly do both things. And it was Allison who actually encouraged me. She said, she said, I know some of the folks up there at Berkeley, and she goes, I think that's a pretty cool opportunity. And she said, I mean, they're offering you like a full ride. I got a thing called the Presidential award that was not only the school part, but the housing, room and board and everything.
Mm.
So, like, essentially, I didn't have to worry about trying to go, you know, pay for housing or any of that kind of stuff. So it was kind of a pressure-free situation in a way to just go try it. And she goes, go try it. If it sucks, you can always come home. And I went, oh, I guess that's true. So I decided to go. And honestly, I set all that up because going into it was just not part of my plan. So I didn't go into the experience being like, here's all the things I hope to get out of it, or even really, I mean, I grew up playing music from such an organic setting of, like under the shade tree or old community centers sitting around jamming with people learning to play by ear. I didn't have any like formal kind of setting for having studied music or anything like that. So it was kind of overwhelming in some ways, all the way around, to leave my tiny little town, to move to Boston, going into this setting that kind of just, it kind of appeared, the opportunity, and I wasn't expecting it, and then I just had to jump in. So I feel like a lot of it felt kind of overwhelming to me. But it was a really amazing experience, and I think, like, from a life standpoint, to be pulled out of, your comfort zone is a good thing for a young person, to be put in a situation where you got to grow and kind of experience something different. And so I'm really grateful for it. Yeah, I ended up doing a thing called an artist diploma program, which is not something you can necessarily sign up for, but I kind of became the guinea pig for something that they've since let some other folks do, which gave me more flexibility to be able to travel while I was there, to come back, be able to do one-on-one private lessons for classes sometimes, instead of, getting way behind in group settings. So my Berkeley
Hmm.
experience was probably a little bit unconventional compared to some other folks' experience, but yeah, it gave me a lot of things to kind of realize that, man, music is a big, endless space of learning, and, kind of helped me put some vocabulary to some things that I might have already known, and definitely gave me a laundry list of things that I'm like, wow, I've never even heard anybody talk about this. I've never heard anybody
Mhm.
even talk about a mode or something, in bluegrass, like, nobody talks about that. You know what I mean? So I don't know, just like, yeah, it's interesting. I still feel like I'm, like, learning stuff. I'd probably be an excellent student now, because I'd go and be like, here are
I'm
all the
sure.
things that I want to work on. I know exactly where I suck and want to do better.
You got some grad
you know
programs up there?
Yeah, I need to go put myself in now.
Were you there the same time as Rick? Did you know
What
him
year
from
was he
there?
there? Do you know? No, we didn't know each other.
I'm not sure. I know you, I think you
He
guys
was
are
probably skipping class all the time
about,
anyways, that
yeah.
guy.
I
I think
don't
you guys are
Yeah,
about the same age, so I
um,
wasn't sure.
I don't we definitely wouldn't have known each other. That doesn't mean we might not have crossed paths somewhere,
Yeah.
but, yeah.
Okay. I was curious if
I
that
don't
was
I
where
don't think we
the
met, though.
okay. I was curious if that's where the Goose connection started.
No, actually, I think I first met those guys, actually the same location where the Dave and Tim Festival is. The year prior to that, we did the Dead Ahead Festival. That was the first time going down there to Moon Palace and
Oh yeah.
playing a festival, and they were playing that same year, too,
Oh,
and
yeah.
we just kinda met each other and hung out a little bit there. Didn't really play together, and I think the first time we actually played together is what you saw, Nolan.
Oh
I
wow.
love that so much.
Gonzo, yes.
Love when
Yeah,
that
I
happens.
don't think we ever actually have played a note before then, unless I'm crazy. But
Oh,
we
that's
like we
awesome.
kind of knew each other a little bit. You know what I'm saying? We'd crossed
Hmm.
paths, we'd kind of been at some different events, and so then when they invited us to come be part of the festival, it was finally like a natural opportunity to get to do something together.
Oh, that's so cool. I was gonna save that for later, but I was curious about the Berkeley thing. What real quick, what were your thoughts on playing acoustic with Goose? Acoustic as the fans call it.
I mean, I love acoustic music, so maybe I'm biased, but I thought that was super fun. I love that kind of thing where, especially the setting of that stage where it's like you're all kind of facing each other. You're sort of in the round almost,
Oh,
It's
it was
like
so
that
cool.
was really fun, just getting to kind of jump into that and have the fans all the way around, on every side of the stage. And yeah, I mean, that kind of stripped down setting, especially as a mandolin player, is like one of the
Hmm.
most fun places to be in. Not that it's not fun to, like, jam on the loud stage too, and, try to pretend that I can be as loud as electric guitar, which mandolin never can. That's just the way it is. But the acoustic setting is really, like, it's just familiar, and it's just, everybody can play with such dynamics in that kind of setting. And, yeah, it's really fun.
It was awesome. I Nolan was there, but I got to revisit it last night, because I hadn't
Hmm.
watched that set probably besides when they released it. I don't know, a few months ago. It was a while after. But I've completely
I
forgotten
haven't
which
seen it.
songs
Is
you
it
got
on
to.
YouTube
Oh,
or
it is,
Yeah.
okay?
which
Yeah.
is hilarious. So you play 2 covers, right? So the Bob Dylan song "Don't Think Twice, It's All Right,"
Yep.
fantastic. And I didn't even notice this, but you said at the very end that you missed a lyric at the end, and you said it was
totally
right before you went on tour with Bob. How dare you?
I know. We were literally going on that Outlaw tour like a few days later, and I was like, "Oh Lord, sorry, Bob." Well, actually, so yeah, I was supposed to be where I could see the lyrics because they had lyrics
Ah,
up there,
yes.
and I was
Mm.
supposed to be seated next to Rick, but where the positioning on the stage ended up being, I was just like not beside him, so it was just kind of like it's fine, we're winging it, but it's like one of those things that, of course, we all know the lyrics to that, but
Yeah.
as soon as someone sings it, then you know it. You know what I mean?
I don't think
Do those
anyone
songs all the
noticed
time.
noticed. You were fine. Everyone was having too good a time, and
Oh, yeah, it was just funny. I was just like, "Whoop, sorry, Bob. I guess I'll
yeah,
know the lyrics by the end of this tour I'm about to go do."
that's so
So
funny.
good.
That was such a cool setting. I think also it was you had a late night set at that same spot
Mhm.
one of the
Yeah, the
nights.
night before, I believe, that was the first
Yes.
set
Oh,
that we did
cool.
at the festival was on that stage. Yeah.
Yes. I believe we stopped by and watched you for part of that. So that was just that whole place was incredible. Such a cool setting
A
for
really cool setting, yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh
That
man.
was awesome. So
Stop talking about it. We're gonna move on because I
sorry,
wasn't there.
Bruce.
The jealousy is continuing
I
to
mean, it
set in.
wasn't that great, it was
Yeah,
fine.
exactly. Exactly. Dave and Tim Mexico also, well, we've both never been, so who cares? We can talk
Yeah.
about being jealous all we want. Um,
All right,
but
sorry,
so
Bruce. Go ahead.
no, 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 no. I love that. Veering off into Goose Talk, let's go. We spend 3 hours on that. But so obviously moving out of, coming out of Berkeley, you're releasing albums every couple years at this point. One of them produced by Bela Fleck, which is really cool. I did not know this. We know Jeff Coffin produces some albums, but Bela too. I mean, maybe your next album can be Jeff produced. Who knows? But he's such an innovative player, and you already said he jumps between genres. It's sick. So, how'd you cross paths with him? Initially, like how'd that come to be? And what do
Yeah.
you think's like the most, I don't know, profound thing you've learned or taken away from him?
Well, I first met Bela at the Edmonton Folk Festival up in Canada when I was probably like 14 or 15. We were both playing on the event, and of
It's
course,
amazing.
like I had a banjo player in my band at the time, like full bluegrass band, and we were all big Bela fans already, and had mutual friends. But he's just one of those that I didn't meet uh, as young. Like a lot of my bluegrass heroes, were kind of around the bluegrass scene, but Bela, despite starting in bluegrass, he's kind of here, there, and everywhere genre wise. So he didn't appear as often in the circle that I was in. So the Edmonton Folk Festival is this like crazy kind of, wide net of different styles of music. And so I forget who he was playing with. It was one of the, you know, duo projects he was doing that was like, man, who was the guy? I don't even remember, but it was like something far fetched, as Bela tends to do. And they put us with him and some Mongolian throat singers on a workshop
Yes.
stage. And
Yes.
so it was my full bluegrass band with Bela, with like maybe three or four of these Mongolian throat singers. And they had um, their instruments were tuned in this kind of like open minor, kind of modal sort of sounding tuning. And I just remember then and there, I remember thinking, whoa, the genius of Bela Fleck, like so quickly, like when it came time for us to decide, like, what are we possibly going to play together? Like, this is a really interesting combo of folks to try to do something. There's a Ralph Stanley banjo song. Do you know the Stanley Brothers, or you think of like
I don't think so.
okay, so the Stanley Brothers are like first generation, you could say bluegrass, most people would say more like mountain music, but like from the time of like Bill Monroe and
Sure.
Flat and Scruggs, if you think about the Beverly Hillbillies things, like the Stanley Brothers, when we go to a bluegrass jam and we sit in a circle, you're going to hear songs that they recorded in that for that catalog, you know. So there's one of Ralph's banjo tunes called Clinch Mountain Backstep that if you go to a bluegrass jam, you know, and somebody says, "Hey, you know, play a banjo tune," it's very likely they might call Clinch Mountain Backstep as one of the tunes. So he knew we would know it. He knew we would know it. And so Bela goes, "How about we do Clinch Mountain Backstep?" And he goes, "They'll be able to follow along, but do it without the backstep," which is a funny thing to say, but there's a bar in the song that, like, if you've played it your whole life, you wouldn't think about it, but it's kind of crooked in one spot. So he's like, "Let's just not play the crooked bar. Let's just play it straight." But it's like kind of in this it has this kind of like, you know, minor modal kind of thing going on that he knew would work with their instruments despite, you know, knowing the tune. He just knew they could like play around this melody and it fit what their language was, if that makes sense. And I remember like how quickly he thought of that. And even then I was just because I was going, "Lord, what on earth are we gonna play?" And he goes, "How about we play that?" You know what I mean? And I remember thinking, that was a killer idea. And it totally worked and it was awesome. And so anyway, that was like my first musical experience with Bela, but we didn't really know each other. Um, Again, had mutual friends, but had finally crossed paths. And then I think he came and did a clinic while I was up at Berkeley, and we hung out just a little bit during that time. You know, again, knew each other, but not really. Like I wouldn't be calling him up for advice or anything. We didn't know each other that well. And then I started making the record. I started recording before the record I made with him. I already went in the studio and I cut like 6 tracks, and it was very like Americana leaning. Actually, we eventually released it. It's called the Weighted Mind Original Sessions. But I went in the studio
Oh,
and I was playing a lot of guitar. It definitely was apparent to me that I needed to do like a singer-songwriter type thing because I was just writing songs. It was like one of the moments in my life that I really felt the pull to like need to put out
mm,
music, like need to create something. But at the same time, I found myself kind of getting stuck in the midst of knowing what direction I wanted to go because I knew it wasn't going to be bluegrass. I mean, this was really where that sort of pivotal turning point in the road for me was starting to happen of sort of abandoning, not abandoning, but like moving away from just the bluegrass structure of like these, you know, 5 instruments, this type of song structure, like kind of opening myself up to what that would be. And I'm sure like post Berkeley and all that, those kind of things. And so I remember talking to Allison Krauss about it. And I was like, telling her that I was just feeling really frustrated and like I'd been kind of producing the original tracks myself, but I was like, I think I just want to work with somebody, but I don't really know who to work with for this kind of project. And I remember her saying, "What about Bela?" And I thought that was such a unique thing for her to suggest him, who we primarily think of as this incredible instrumentalist, because I was thinking, well, what I'm trying to do is not like shred mandolin on everything. I need to make my
right.
singer-songwriter album. And I was like, "Bela." And she goes, "There's nothing musically he doesn't understand." She was like, "And I really think he would be a great vocal producer." And turns out Bela had produced some records that at the time I didn't realize he had even produced them, but there's a band called the Nashville Bluegrass Band that Allison had really loved. I had loved. He'd also produced some stuff for an artist named Mara O'Connell. And Allison remembered him producing those records and thinking they were really great. And she was like, "I think you should talk to him." She's like, even if you don't end up working with him, he'd probably like be willing to just like listen to some stuff, maybe give you some feedback, maybe just like, you know, be somebody who might kind of point you in a direction that inspires you. And so I thought, yeah, okay, that's really interesting. Definitely wouldn't have thought of him for what it was I thought I was trying to do. But again, I didn't know him that much at the time. And then fast forward, like literally a few weeks later, I was at the IBMA award show and somebody taps me on the shoulder and I turn around and it's Bela and Abby. And I hadn't seen him in like a couple years. And I thought, holy cow, that's just who I've needed to talk to
Wow.
and cross paths with. So we connected there and I kind of told him about what I was working on. And he said, "Well, cool, come over. Why don't you come over to my house next week and just play me some of what you're working on? And we'll just, you know, see what we get into." And so it turned into this just kind of getting together with Bela and sharing my music with him and him giving me such great inspiration until finally it became apparent we were going to do a record together because it clicked, the flow was there. You know, I was feeling particularly inspired again after a time of kind of hitting a roadblock. And so he definitely helped pull me out of that and challenged me in some really good musical ways, to just kind of strip everything down to just mandolin and voice, which I had. It's funny, I almost was like running away from thinking like I so many people think of me as a mandolin player, especially at that point too, which don't get me wrong, I love instrumental music. I think of myself as one very strongly, but like also as an artist, I do have a need to write and sing and share that part of myself. And so I felt like this was really where I wanted that to be the forefront. And he basically was like, this can be the forefront by making the mandolin the center of it all with your voice, because that's what makes you so unique. So it's almost like working with him kind of brought me back to the deepest part of myself, not to get all foo-foo, but like, it's almost like I was kind of going, hey, I'm also this other thing, and I've really got to like put that forth on this record. And he's like, yeah, the way you're going to put that forth is by being so uniquely you and not abandoning the thing that makes you special. You know what I mean? And so having somebody like him really kind of point me back to my own strength in a way was pretty profound, and something I try to always remember when I have those feelings, I guess.
Wow. Wise
He was
words
right. It's a
from
great
Bela
record.
Fleck.
That's
Oh,
right.
thank you. But yeah, he's got a real knack for tapping into that and seeing that in folks, I think.
Yeah, his musical understanding is just ridiculous.
Yeah, the recollection is just like, oh god.
Oh yeah, him and I
Yeah.
mean everyone in the Flecktones. I feel like they're just absolute masters and experts of their instruments. And that was one
Well,
of the things we
I
talked
I
about.
wasn't supposed to be on that Flecktones tour, but I got to go out on tour with them in December, the Christmas tour. Howard
Yeah.
ended up having some
Oh
health
right.
problems, and Bela called and was like, "Hey, can you jump on this tour?" And I thought December was going to be my time off. I mean, I had been so busy, and then then it turned into like doing a bunch of press and doing the Flecktones tour, and just was like such a crazy month. But I
Oh
thought I
wow.
can't say no to this. And I've toured a lot with Bela over the past several years, like with his bluegrass ensemble, My Bluegrass Heart. Me and my husband Justin, actually, Justin played dobro on that project. And so, I mean, I've
Oh
done
cool.
countless shows with Bela over the last several years for the bluegrass record. And I've played with all of the Flecktones separately. Like I've done stuff even with Cory Wong, with Victor, and I've done stuff with Jeff. Like Jeff came and sat in with me and my band at a show of ours in Nashville, and my
Mm.
drummer does a lot of stuff with him. And I had kind of gotten to be around Future Man, but hadn't really got to play with him. And so it was just kind of like it was this kind of crazy, like, well, I can't say no to that, and it was like a really busy time to kind of jump in, and to jump into that music with only a week's notice or whatever was kind of insanity too. But it was such a great challenge, and I mean, I walked away from that just so inspired, because those guys are just all not only just such deep creative musicians and souls, but such great teachers too. It's like just being in their presence, you can't help but like learn from them.
Mm.
So it's pretty awesome. I'm really grateful I got to do that.
I feel like that'd be the ultimate test of like, do you have the music chops or not, playing with the Flecktones and trying to keep up with them? And obviously you
Oh,
do, but
oh
I
God. Well,
can't imagine.
well, they like when he asked me, because this Christmas tour was like, I think this was like the first time they'd done this music in 15 years or something, and it was going to be the
Yeah.
first time that Jeff and Howard had been on tour together too, because it was either Jeff with the Flecktones or Howard with the Flecktones, and so
Mhm.
Jeff being in that on that tour was so cool. And man, what an incredible musician that he is. But yeah, Bela said, okay, so before you say yes, he was like, just go listen to these couple things. And he goes, just know what you're signing up for. And one of them was the 12 Days of Christmas. And
Oh,
Yes.
that one's tough.
it 12 Days of Christmas in 12 different keys and 12 different time
Yes.
signatures. And
Yes.
you're always moving up one and then moving down chromatically too, and changing time signatures on the way down. And I was like, oh my God. But it was kind of fun getting together and realizing that they're also kind of struggling through it. They're having to
Yeah.
relearn it too, because this isn't stuff they've just been playing, for a really long time. So it was like fun to be working on it, kind of to be thrown into it, so to speak,
Mhm.
unexpectedly, on such short notice, but to also get to like witness them working through it.
Yeah.
So
I
it
must
was
have
fun.
just missed you on that. I saw him. It was December 17th in Durham.
Yep.
Um,
So basically, Bela called me and he offered me the whole tour, but we were flying to New York to do the CBS Saturday sessions for my with
oh
my
yeah.
band and my record, and doing some stuff around the Grammy stuff. And so there was already, plus I was sitting in with the Almond Betts family revival on a handful of shows, one in New York and a couple on the West Coast. And I was like, I'm already going to have to miss a few shows, because I had those commitments and things going on. And
Hmm.
I was like, I'd love to be able to do it. There's a chunk in the middle that, if you're okay with me missing the handful of the others, there was like maybe 5 or 6 of the shows I couldn't do. And I was like, but I can do like 11 or 12 of these in the middle. If you're down to have me on those, then I'm in. And so I was grateful. He had me come out for those, and they just sort of reworked the arrangements when I wasn't there for the rest of them, which was really kind of them to do.
That's so cool. I did a little digging. 2009 Edmonton uh, Folk Festival, I believe, is the one. Bela Fleck and Tumani
Yes, Tumani, that's what it
Diabate.
was. Yeah, yeah.
Yep. And then there are a couple spots down Sierra Hull and Highway 111.
111.
Yep.
Yep, that was the name of my bluegrass band for a long time, until too many people butchered the name, and I decided we'd move on from that. The
It's good
highway, like,
sleuthing
that
there,
leads
Nolan.
into Birdstown, where I grew up, is called Highway 111. So if you're coming from
Okay.
Nashville even and you get off the interstate, Highway 111 is the road that takes you into the town I grew up in.
Gotcha.
And at some point when I would play local events back home, one of the like local MCs, kind of just deemed our community sitter set or whatever. So you're on Highway 111, So we kept it for a while, but then yeah, people would say Highway 111, Highway 3, Highway
Oh boy.
111. So finally I was like, it's okay. I think we'll just take that part off. But
Yeah, enough of that.
Yeah. That sounds like what happened to DMB. It was just Dave Matthews and band, and they called him Dave Matthews Band, and
there you go.
it stuck.
Yeah, totally.
Um, okay, just a few more, and then we'll talk a little bit about DMB, and then get you out of here. But you mentioned Cory Wong and kind of collabing with him. We were and doing our research for this, looking at videos, some of your performances, and Bruce sent the performance with Corey and the Wong notes of "Over the Mountain," and
From
that,
the show, from the YouTube
Yeah.
show? Is it from that? Yeah.
Yes.
yeah, I mean, like, we knew you were really good at the mandolin, but then watching that was like, we had the same reaction as Corey Wong in the video. We're like, oh my god, that
I
was
just remember, I've not seen that in forever, but Sonny T takes a pretty sick solo on that too, if I recall.
yes,
Oh
On the
yeah.
bass.
That one
Yeah.
yes,
that one
I
was
mean, he always
massive
does, but
Flecktones vibes too. Like
big
well, you know
time.
that
what?
performance.
Corey's a huge Flecktones fan. And so
Hmm.
he was like, I want to write something that feels like the Flecktones. And that was sort of the inspiration for writing that piece. And for
That's
me, that,
awesome.
like, I didn't, funny enough, I didn't really grow up with the Flecktones either, despite, of course, being a big Bela fan. I first knew about Bela's music from him being on Tony Rice records and other people's stuff. And then that finally led me to like his earlier like bluegrass kind of projects, onto the Flecktones as I got a little bit older. But Corey, grew up like huge Flecktones fan. And so he was like, I want to write something kind of like Stomping Grounds. I remember him saying, and I said,
Oh
well,
Yes.
wow.
I was like, funny enough, I've kind of got this piece that I'm working on. So I kind of already had the A part of that tune, um, as a starting place. And I was like, I don't know if this is kind of what you mean. I said, but maybe we could probably make the vibe of it that. And then I remember us like, you know, writing it on Zoom so that we could actually play it together. And funny enough, that performance is also the first time I ever got to play with Corey in person.
Wow.
Oh wow.
We had recorded together, but literally that's the performance, and it's completely live too. It's like, which was
Mm.
really fun. Just everything we did on those shows or on his show, it's basically, a real capture of the first performance together, which is kind of fun.
That
And
was
you did
incredible.
the I think it was a video of you guys rehearsing, and I think you do Lord, That's a Long Way.
Yeah,
and you and
so
the horn players are just flying, and Corey is just standing there, mouth agape, just like, "What is happening?"
oh
Yes.
my gosh. Well, Eddie Barbash, the saxophone player, he and I have played a lot together. And actually, I had taken him on a few of my tours before I even knew Corey. So I'm not always sure like how Corey came to know about me, if it was through Eddie
He
or
knows
through
all.
some other through some other connection. But Corey reached out to me during the pandemic on Instagram and was like, "Hey, I'm making this acoustic guitar EP. I was wondering if you would feature on a track on mandolin." And like I knew who he was, but we hadn't never really met or gotten to hang or anything like that. So some of what we did, even writing that tune, we wrote it together before we had actually met in person, which is so funny. Like what a funny time to be existing in the world, during the pandemic and when we're just kind of like trying to still connect and keep creative things flowing. And so the idea was like, oh well, let's write a tune that we could play together on the show because we kind of needed something that we could do. And so
Mhm.
so yeah, that was kind of fun. And then at that point he had invited me to come out on tour and to sit in with those guys. And the idea was that I would sort of open solo and then we'd play some of my songs with the band as well. And so I had just written that tune and was like, "Hey, this would be cool." And I know Eddie could totally play this, because he's got that bluegrass sensibility. Weirdly enough, on the saxophone, can play fiddle tunes and just sound like some old time fiddler on the saxophone rhythmically.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. So, yeah, they were down to learn it.
Wow.
Incredible
That
collab.
w
Incredible.
Yeah, that was so cool. Corey also, guested with, DMB,
Yeah,
gosh, what was it, 2023 now at Madison Square Garden, just
I
a
saw the pictures, and I know he's a
yeah,
Casual.
huge D&B fan. So yeah,
huge
Yeah.
fan,
yeah.
played with him again at the Gorge, and then he's gonna be, um, at Viva El Gonzo, with
Oh,
Goose this
cool.
year. Yeah,
Nice. That'll
so
be good.
pretty good. But getting into kinda like your relationship with Dave, do you remember how it first started where they, reached out to you about Dave and Tim?
It just came in through my agents. I
Yeah.
had I mean, I had like I've known about that festival for a minute. And we had also just played the Dead Ahead Festival at the same location.
Mhm.
So when we got the offer, I was like, "Oh, amazing. We'll get to go back." And we had such a great time at the Dead Ahead event, and all the folks there that put that on just did such a great job. And so it was really kind of cool walking into that event too, because though we didn't know Dave and Tim, we kind of were familiar with like the feeling of the space. Now, granted, the
Mhm.
two festivals feel very different. The energy of the audiences and like the whole weekend and all that stuff feel very different. Um, but, like, so I knew it was gonna be good, but I think we just kinda walked into it and we're like, "Okay, cool, this will be great because 'cause we've sort of been on this property before, we know how this is gonna go," and it just was so great. We just had so much fun. And, like,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mean to say, like, I don't always say that, like, I try to have a good time wherever I go, but I can actually say, like, 5 stars to this event. It was, like, really, a highlight of last year, I thought.
She's gonna be the new hype girl, from
I
now
mean,
on when
I'm
Dave
telling
and
I
you.
Tim
know,
need
I
to
was about
sell
to
some extra
say.
I'm
tickets
coming
down
by
to
it honest though, I
Mexico.
swear.
Yeah, they're just gonna ask you to cut the promos. Was
That's
it
right.
similar
Yeah.
for the Gorge thing? They reached back out? I guess they obviously, enjoyed, your presence and having you be a part of it. How did that happen for the Gorge coming up this year?
Yeah, well, so Dave told me that he had been watching us on YouTube or something, like, at the festival. So, like, I think because and he knew that we covered Bela's tune Stomping Grounds
Yes.
sometimes, and so that's probably how he found us was through that or maybe Jeff. I'm not sure, but anyway, like, he was aware, so maybe he had something to do with it happening, or it could have been that the promoters crossover of promoters could have been a combo of both things. After we did the thing at the festival, um, I sort of heard from my um agent like, hey, they say they're going to send an offer for the Gorge. Like they enjoyed having you guys at the festival. They want to have you at the Gorge. So we actually got asked to do it last year, but I couldn't
Oh,
say yes. And the reason is because we did the Willie Nelson Outlaw tour with Bob Dylan and Willie and Billy
Uh,
Strings, and we played the Gorge. So we couldn't agree to the Gorge twice in that kind of short time frame, you know?
mhm.
So I remember being like, "Oh, man," like, sometimes that's just how it goes. Stuff comes in, and for whatever reason, you just can't do it despite wanting to do it. The schedule doesn't work or the radius clause and all that kinda, businessy stuff gets in the way, and so I remember being like, "I hope they ask us again." I was like,
oh my
"I hope that
gosh.
because they were like, 'Don't worry, it'll circle back around,' and I thought, "Well, sometimes people say that, and it may or it may not," but then when we got invited this year again, I was like, "Yay, now we can say yes." So
It
I
would
was,
have been
like,
Good.
too
hoping
perfect last year.
I
Like
was
having
hoping they
Bela,
I
Goose, and
know,
you. Like that would have just been too many
Wow.
worlds
I
colliding and all
know,
that stuff.
I know. Again,
Uh,
wish we could have done it, but it wasn't meant to be, and now it gives us something to really look forward to.
Oh, hell yeah.
And to get to go to the
Absolutely.
Gorge twice, I mean, heck, put me
Yeah.
in. That's an amazing venue, so
Yeah. All right, that's a nice segue into our last segment. We always do a rapid fire with our guests. So just some quick hitters for you here. What's your favorite venue that you've played?
Gorge probably ranks up there. It's a pretty special place. I'm also just, I'm partial to the Ryman Auditorium here in Nashville. It's the first stage I played with Allison on. It's the stage Bluegrass was born on, the Grand Ole Opry, all that kind of bluegrass history from kind of where I'm from. I have to probably say the Ryman.
Good answer.
Beautiful. Shout out Alex Brandt. Absolutely.
There
Okay.
you go.
Instrument you wish you could play, but either never have or you just know you can't.
uh, Piano.
All right.
Never really been around a piano that much or had one at my house growing up or anything like that. But I think that would be really fun.
Great
What's
answer.
the last song you listened to?
Oh, um, funny enough, I'm like, let me look at what's on my computer here. Um, there's a record actually. I've been listening to this whole record by this Jacob de Bandolim, which is like some choro, like Brazilian choro mandolin music, which is pretty
Ooh,
cool.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
that's one of our best answers. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which
Musician that
I occasionally go back to from time to time, but it's like when I'm looking for something just out of the box to be inspired by, that's pretty fun stuff to listen to.
dude, that's awesome. I love that. All right, musician that you haven't played with yet but want to.
Oh, musician is maybe the wrong word. I always give this answer because I feel like it's the truth because people do ask that question a lot, and I really would love to get to really do something with Dolly Parton at some point. Just because she's been such a big hero to me.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
you know, Also just fellow Tennessee gal and just,
Yeah.
icon. I've been on recordings with her. I've even been on stage with her, but we've never actually been in a room to like one-on-one get to have a real hang. So it's like I
Wow.
feel like throughout my career, she even gave me a quote for like my second album. So it's like and I've met her very briefly, but we've never really got to have like a genuine heart to heart experience. And for me, that would be like, I can die happy now.
That would be awesome.
All
Yeah,
right, Dolly, if you're listening.
yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
Dolly, are you a Dave Matthews fan?
She is, obviously, and she's
She
definitely
has
I
to
listening.
be. Look, those two
honestly,
together, can you imagine the niceness overload would be
oh
we
my
couldn't
gosh.
take it. We couldn't handle
That's
it.
true.
That's
I
like
feel
too
like
much
it
good people all in one.
it
That's
is. I feel like we've been doing the podcast for what, 7 almost 7 years now, and the amount of people who love Dave, like it's everybody, every musician that we talk to is just like, oh, Dave's the best. Like grew up on Dave, and it's cool to see. Maybe Dolly
That's
is a fan.
awesome. Hey, I wouldn't doubt it.
Um, what is your favorite album of all time?
Favorite album of all time? Well, the one that really, if I have to say which like album shaped me probably the most, God, there's so many. So this is a tough one. But I would say Allison Krauss and Union Station's So Long, So Wrong was very much like an album that made me be like, oh my God, I want to do this,
Mhm.
from the songs, the production, the like musicianship on that record, but also like as a mandolin player, Adam Steffi's mandolin playing on that album. So, as a young female mandolin player, it kind of gave me the best of both worlds from a mandolin standpoint and a vocal standpoint to have something to like dive into and really try to learn from.
Love it.
Beautiful. Favorite song to cover?
Oh, hmm. I don't know if I would say it's just like my all-time favorite, but I do really love it, and it's probably our most requested cover as we do a cover of Mad World. And
Oh,
I never get tired of doing that song.
Wow, great song.
wow. That is a good
Yeah.
song.
It's such
All
a
right.
good song, and it's just always relevant feeling. Like I never sing it and
Mhm.
don't feel something. You know what I mean? It's like one of those I can always feel something while I'm doing it. So,
Agreed. Okay. Say DMB were to invite you, or Dave and Tim were to invite you on stage again. Is there a song you would want to play on?
oh man, truly anything. With those
Yeah.
guys, anything. And I love that they have a different set all the time. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So it's like you can't, that's the thing, as a sit-in, you can't even prep for that. That's what's
Yeah.
kind of
True.
cool is you can't even go, oh, let me like figure out what they've been like playing on this
Yeah.
tour and like, get my act together. It's like whatever, like at the Dave and Tim festival, we did Ants, of course, but
Mm.
also like he wanted to do Angel from Montgomery, and I was like, awesome. I love that song. I
Great
wouldn't have
song.
thought that would be what he would say, let's sing that, but you know what I mean? So
Hmm.
so in a way, I kind of almost love like not even trying to put any kind of thought into what I would want to play with them because it's, I think anything could be really fun and special. And I must say, I was definitely like going back and listening to Live at the Gorge and some of those recordings, from the Gorge. I know there's more than one, but like the one that I had when I was in school,
Oh, two.
while I was on
Hmm.
the beach in Mexico the day after the Dave and Tim festival, and I was
Oh,
like,
nice.
I was feeling inspired and getting stoked, so I've been listening.
Oh, that's
Like
great
one more night,
vibes.
one more night.
Let's go.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, Dave had done Angel from Montgomery a lot with Emmy Lou Harris. So
Oh, cool.
Hmm.
he's very big fan of that song and doing it
It's
with
a great
another
song.
fantastic female. Oh yeah. And just loves that. When you said Mad World, I was like, oh my God. I think I saw that at the last Goose show I was at. They covered it last year at Halloween over at
Oh,
Sewanee.
cool.
So I
Oh,
saw
very
Mad
cool.
World they covered it. They've only
I
played it like
mean, it's
2 or
making
3
the
times
rounds
and it's sure
then.
cut.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. I was
Song
like,
for the
"Oh my
times.
god." Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
it
They knew what
is.
they were doing. All right,
Yeah.
last one real quick. One word to describe your music.
Honest, I hope.
Perfect. Yeah, I think it was honest and humble, whatever that quote was earlier. You play right into it, but honest is so good. That's a
I
great,
I
yeah,
I ch I try
great.
to hope that that's what it is, at least, for better or for worse, you know?
It sounds honest. I like it. Yeah,
Well,
I
thank
believe
you.
you.
The answer is
Thank
at
you.
least, right?
Yeah.
The answer is
Yeah.
No, that's great. All right, before we get you out of here, Sierra, and thank you so much. You've been so generous with your time and just such great stories and information. I mean, it's just so cool to hear from you. But one last time, what's next for you? Where can people find you? We want to send, as you said, the DMB fans, they'll come. We want to send them more and more to
yeah,
you. So what's
Yeah.
coming up?
totally. Well, we've got loads of touring happening this summer, a good bit that's already announced, some that's obviously yet to come, some fun festivals and stuff like that. Basically, if you just go to my website, sierrahole.com, or find me on social media, you can pretty much get easy links to all the tour dates. We're hopping on this Kiamo cruise coming up later this weekend, which should be pretty fun. It's like I was telling Nolan, it's a
Cool.
floating music cruise for a lot of like Americana bands, and so that should be fun. And then basically we dive into a really busy April tour, kind of out from Santa Fe all the way out to the West Coast, and yeah, dive into summer festival season. We'll be kind of here, there, and everywhere. Festivals like, New Orleans Jazz Fest and the Telluride Bluegrass Festival.
Ooh.
We're doing a show. I mentioned the Ryman. We're playing the Ryman here and July 7th, I think, in Nashville. So, y'all come see us wherever it's close to you.
Well, D&B fans will be there. That's for
Hey,
sure.
yeah, we sure love those fans. No joke. They made us feel just so welcome at that event that anytime I've crossed paths with any folks who have come out to the shows, it's been really a treat to get to meet them. So come say hi.
Well, that's great. And, we'll all see you at the Gorge opening for DMB Labor Day weekend. But Sierra, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And we will see you next time on the corner of Gray Street.
Osiris.